as luck would have it, this is the session that I certainly would have chosen to attend, so I'm quite lucky in that this is the one that I'm chairing. Our first speaker this afternoon will probably need no introduction. She didn't need any for me because I don't watch an awful lot of television, but actually one of the few programmes that I do watch is The Apprentice, so Roisin was instantly recognisable. And in particular, you know, when it was unusual to have an Irish person on the UK Apprentice and for someone to do so well on that programme. So Roisin, as you probably all know, is a chartered accountant. She trained in EY and has now gone her own way and is setting up her own business. Now, Roisin is going to talk to us today about how accountants make the best entrepreneurs. So, welcome, Roisin. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm quite shocked that I'm here talking to you today, because this time last year I would never have expected to be at the ICAI annual conference addressing you, so I'm really excited, a little bit nervous, so please bear with me. I guess why I'm here today, and I love that the whole theme of the conference is about making the right calls, but for me, I'm not going to give you any gap or ISA updates. I just want to kind of share with you my journey and the reason why I think being an accountant makes people great entrepreneurs and makes people great leaders, and those foundations that we have really makes us hopefully, you know, leaders in industry. And a lot of people have said to me since I left practice and kind of went rogue, a lot of people have said, but you know, you're just an accountant, what are you doing in the food industry? Or you're just an accountant, you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a risk taker. And I'm like, that's exactly why I'm in the food industry and why I'm an entrepreneur and why I'm a risk taker. Because the foundations that I have from my experience and my accounting background have really led me along the path that I've taken. You know, if we look at our esteemed colleague, another speaker here, Michael O'Leary, whose success I'd love to emulate, you know, he's one of the best examples of that. And I suppose I should start off by giving you a bit of background about myself. As Shauna kindly mentioned, I trained with Ernst & Young. I'm from Dublin, went to and studied commerce in UCD, and the natural progression was into practice in EY, and loved it. Like, was totally hooked, really energised by it. Worked with great teams, had really great mentors, met loads of people, great clients. Had the downside as well in the long hours, tough conversations, difficult audits, all of the usual, but really was energised by it. And then I gave up smoking, which sounds really random, I know, but it was New Year's, and I was my New Year's resolution, and I went back into work. You can imagine after the Christmas break, going back in, financial services, Ernst & Young audit, January, busy season, just giving up smoking. It all came at once. And I started to get really into health and nutrition, and having given up smoking, it can often be associated with putting on weight because you replace cigarettes with snacks. And I got really into understanding what I was putting into my body and what fuel I needed to get me through the day. And I used to go into the supermarket, and it would be like late in the evening looking for dinner. I didn't have time for a big, you know, culinary extravaganza, but I wanted to make something that was healthy and nutritious. But also, I've been working really hard. I wanted a treat. I wanted to kind of satisfy the cravings, and nothing was there. And that's when the idea for my food business started, and I was kind of mulling over it, and I was really looking into nutrition and food trends and health and what I could have that would satisfy me. And I came across, you know, a lot of the food trends were low carbohydrate, and I found that really worked, and I wanted to create a product around it. And I found this brilliant substitute that's a vegetable that can be shaped into a noodle or a pasta. And I thought, wow, okay, no carbs, really low calories, this is like a no-brainer. So while working in Ernst & Young, I started working on that as well and developing recipes. And, you know, I had like the green light, red light moments. And as any good accountant would do, I did my feasibility study. And it got to the point where I'm one of those like 100% people, I'm all or nothing. It got to the point where the business was becoming too big for me to remain committed to EY, and EY was too demanding for me to pursue the business. So I kind of came to that juncture in my career and sat down with my husband and we crunched the numbers. And you know, I am a risk taker. I do like a game of poker, but I took this as a calculated risk. It wasn't a decision I took on a whim. I really loved EY, and when I decided to go, even when I think back to when I handed my notice in to one of the partners that I worked really closely with, and I started crying when I was handing my notice in. I was really like, this is a real emotional decision for me. It was like leaving my work family. It was a huge move, and but you know, now looking back on it, I'm really glad that I did it, because I'm here now in front of you today, and I probably wouldn't be if I was still in EY. But I then went on, you know, that was, I guess, the first maybe right call that I might have made. I then went on to work from my house. And it's one thing doing a feasibility plan study while you have a secure job and a career and an income and all the support of an office and everything like that. It's entirely different when you're sitting at home in your dining room, which is your office, and you've no income, and you realise you're in an industry you really don't know anything about. And that's really intimidating, and it's really scary, and it became apparent to me, like, really quickly, I need to differentiate myself. I need to do something that's going to make me stand out, because there are so many food products, hundreds of food products launched in Ireland every year, and so many of them fail, that I thought I really need something that's going to propel me and the product onto that other level. So I was sitting on my couch, and I was watching BBC One, and this ad came on. It was like, are you an entrepreneur? And in my head, I'm like, yeah. And they're like, have you got a great business idea? And I was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, you should apply for the Apprentice with Alan Sugar. And I thought, wow, that's like really something that I should think about. This is really interesting. And I started thinking, okay, like, this is me coming from, I had no Facebook, no Twitter. I had a really pared back LinkedIn profile, totally anonymous and really private. But I was like, wow, if I could get on primetime BBC One TV, and if I could represent myself well, I could reach 10 million people in the UK and Ireland who are my target consumer, and there's nothing else even that would come close to that. So I thought, this is a huge opportunity. This could be a really good strategic decision. So I applied, didn't really think any more about it, and then I got called for an interview, and I put on inverted commas because it was really like an audition. It was kind of like the X Factor, actually. And it was really weird. It wasn't at all what you and I would consider a normal interview. So had one interview, and then had another interview, and had a number of interviews. And at each stage I thought, sure, I won't get it. Oh, I said this, and that was really embarrassing, or I didn't stand out enough, and genuinely didn't think that I got it until I got a call saying, we'd love for you to come on the show. So I was like, okay, now I've got a decision to make. And this is where, again, making the right call comes in. And I know everybody has different interpretations of it, because for me, my family, my husband, my parents, they were like, don't do it, don't do it. It's like, it's a negative show. I don't know any of you who've watched it. It can sometimes be quite negative. It's about like conflict. It's really humiliating at times. You've no control over the edit. And so a lot of these things that my family rightly said, I thought about, and I really considered it. And then I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to back myself, and I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to back my product. And I think if I hadn't had the experience, the training and the experience in EY, that I would not have done it in a million years, because I had the confidence that I could, I've been in a lot worse situations than doing a task or something like that. I can go in, I can do this, and I can do this well. And I think you have to back yourself. So made that decision, and then off I go to London with my suitcase and move into this house with all these people, which is so surreal, because you're living with 20 people who are your competition, as well as people that you're living with. So you're tearing strips off each other in the boardroom, and then you come back and you're like, okay, let's have a coffee. This is really weird. But I find that very difficult because they take away your life, essentially. You've no phone, no passport, no wallet, no TV, no books, no radio, nothing. So you're in this psychological bubble of paranoia and worry and anxiety over questioning every decision you made, questioning others' decisions, wondering, oh, you know, who's gonna come at me? So it was a real, for me, a real character building, I think, experience. But again, I had, because of my experience, I was able to kind of draw on resources that I didn't even know I had, but that I had built over the years through my experience. So inevitably, the point came where I was fired for the first time in my life, and it was even more embarrassing because it was in front of so many people. I made it to the semi-final, which was great, but as I say to people now, a lot of people ask me, would you do it again? And I say, I would totally do it again. And not only do that, I would do it again with the same result. I would still want to get fired when I did, which I know sounds very odd. But I think that's when Alan Sugar made the right call, because I came back here and I thought, okay, what do I need to do to make my business work? How can I best capitalize on this experience and this platform that I've created, and I've risked a lot to create, and I've worked hard to create. And I thought, I do really lack. I was like, where do I lack? Looking at my skill set, I really lack. I've no food industry knowledge. I've no manufacturing knowledge. I've no retailer knowledge. And they're all fundamental to launching a food business. So I thought, I need to partner with somebody who's in the game, who's a food manufacturer. And that's when I got in touch with Paddy Callahan, who owns a company called Nature's Best in Drogheda. And they're actually one of the biggest manufacturers in Ireland. And they supply all the big retailers, and they do a lot of own label stuff. And Paddy wanted a brand, I wanted a manufacturer, and we came together and we have come into partnership, and we're actually launching the product in one of the biggest retailers in the country next month. So that's all been very exciting, and that's kind of been my story up to now. And I just kind of thought today, with making the right calls and also with the decisions that I've made, I wanted to share with you kind of during the process of The Apprentice and the process of leaving practice, going out on my own, finding a new business partner, negotiating with retailers. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how I think fundamentally being an accountant prepared me for all of that. And definitely, don't know if people watch the show or not, but the concept is you have two teams and you have tasks, and the winning team does no one gets fired. And one of the key tasks, and actually one of Alan Sugar's favourite tasks, is it's like a scavenger hunt, where you're given a list of items that you have to go off into London, and you basically have to buy them for the lowest price, and whichever team spends the least wins and no one gets fired. And when we were given our list, one of them was, they all have like a really detailed spec. One of them was a diamond. And that was like the big ticket item. And it was, you know, we got to buy the diamond. And I was like, I'll buy the diamond. And I knew it was a risk because I could fall flat on my face and pay a fortune for the diamond, but I thought it's also an opportunity to really show my negotiation. So we go off to Hatton Garden, which is like the diamond district in London, and we go into this wholesale diamond building, is all I can describe it as, this huge place that actually recently, I don't know if you saw in the press, it was that the heist took place there a few months ago. And it has the full-on vaults and steel doors and really intimidating. And I knew, I was like, okay, I'm really stretching here, but I knew I don't have any experience in negotiating with precious stones dealers, but I do have experience with negotiation. I have tons of experience in negotiation with clients for audit fees or general project fees, and you know, I also have have had loads of difficult meetings, and I thought I can definitely go in here and I can certainly give it my best shot. And I went in with a sound basis. I knew what price I wanted to get it, and I did, and I bought a diamond for £50. And that's something I'd really like to repeat in real life. But I think it was definitely that confidence and that kind of, you know, being safe in the knowledge that I can go in here with sound basis, good negotiation skills, and all of the things, a lot of that I had learned in my days in EY, and able to bring that in a different way to a different scenario. Another thing that we did another task was to create a board game, which sounds really, oh, that sounds really easy. Create a board game, it's kind of creative, it's kind of up there, which it is. But then when you actually get down to making a board game that you can play, that has a beginning and an end and a number of players, and how does the board work and when do you finish, that's the part where that's really difficult. So I had this great idea of this geography game, and you were going to guess, you had a team, and the team would guess the country we were talking about through various clues and stuff. And then it was like, okay, now we've got to make this real. And again, it was like when you're planning an audit. It was like, planning, execution, conclusion. You just go back to the fundamentals and the basics of what you know. And that, I think, for me, through my time in the show, was definitely a good place of comfort for me to have, to be able to draw on that skill set. And I think probably most importantly through the whole experience was, I thought to myself, okay, I've been in many board meetings, lots of boardrooms, talking about a lot more serious issues, economic issues facing the country, mortgage arrears, some really, really serious things. And I thought, my goodness, going in and having Alan Sugar give out to me for not selling enough potatoes is not a big deal, So it's all relative. And it was, again, to go in there and maintain your professionalism, being cool and calm and having the facts on your side. And I think that's something that really, and I'm not saying I was the only one that did that, I wasn't by any means, but it certainly does elevate your position then, and people actually listen to you. So after all the Apprentice stuff was over, my accounting foundations kind of came back into play when it came to my business, more importantly, real life for me. And what was huge there was when I was going into negotiations with Paddy, I had to, value my own business. How do you value your own business when you're not even trading, you're pre-revenue? How do you value your own sweat equity? How do I value the intangible that I'm bringing of this profile and platform? So all of these things, I was able to draw on so many things, especially because I was in financial services, and to go to Paddy with sound, figures that were supported by real assumptions. And that meant that I was in a much stronger negotiation position. And thankfully, Paddy and I both have come out of it with a deal that we're both very happy with. But again, those are the foundations that have helped me commercially be in a much better place than I would be otherwise, and just going with an idea and a brand. And I think one of the, I suppose, most important areas as well is with retailers who are notoriously difficult, and can really, pinch you on all sides. But being able to go to them and saying, okay, here's my product, it's great. Here's my brand, it's great. But I have this granular data, and all of my data is supported by, and it's like going back to my auditing days of cross-referencing nearly, and bringing that all together and showing them the big picture, but also being able to rattle off the numbers, to really show your in-depth knowledge of them, their business, your business, and also fundamentally commercially the numbers. And I suppose I feel like from the start, just talking through, it's like all these kind of moments of thinking of the business, thinking of leaving EY, and then doing the Apprentice, and now launching my business. There's been all these kind of highlights, I guess, along the way, and that's all when I had choices and I had to make those decisions. And something something really came out of the Apprentice that people have subsequently said is it's really important to have morals, and it's really important to have ethics. And I think something that definitely comes across, there were points throughout the process where people were lying or people were, misleading, and you've got to stand up and be counted. And I think people respect everybody more in those situations when you will. It mightn't be the easiest decision, but when you do say your piece and you do stand up and be counted. And I guess for me, finally, I think I really feel really strongly that the discipline, the professionalism, the technical skills, the sound financial foundations that being an accountant and working in UI have me here in front of you today. And it also has me actually living my dream and hopefully being a really successful accountant and entrepreneur for a lot longer. And thank you very much for your time, and I'd love any questions or musings or a chat or anything. Thank you.